Yo, what is good, my anime people? What is good, yo? Very good this week, guys. I've kind of been prepping you guys for shows like this because I always talk about shows that usually start to feel like they can have a very hard ending. Like, for instance, if you just have so many different things, excuse me, if you have so many different things that are going on, and all of a sudden, all of these things are kind of just coming to an abrupt end, it feels almost as if you're just making sure all of these doors are shut so you don't have other people wondering. So, with one of the things that really stood out to me as one of those moves is the fact that if if the fairies were to continue to adapt or get any crazier, we would see another divine beast or something remotely strong, or just capable of what it was capable of. I mean, sure, it did take a lot of humans like meddling and doing experiments and figuring out just how to actually create or at least summon one, however you want to see it. It was more of a creation, but um, to know that this whole entire outcome gets, taken out by practically, two, three people, it is kind of lackluster that it is handled as easy as it was. Something that can easily just pretty much eradicate and take the life and energy out of stuff and make it pretty much useless. So to see someone, like, I was kind of calling it like, is she uh, if she just like ran up to it and didn't have all the other stuff happen throughout this week's episode happen, it would have felt really, really bad. But with what happens to her best friend that now pretty much lives on with her through her fairy, um, which is going to leave sooner than later, supposedly, right? Like, there's sooner or later going to be a time where there's no fairies in the world, which just sounded like an open or like a close to book end, right? Like, until that time, are you going to show us what's going on with people having fairies? Or was that your way of just saying, and years pass, and finally fairies went on doing what they wanted to do in a different world or a different, dimension, whatever the heck, and you just kind of write it off. So shows can easily do that compared to, like the mangas where it's the author creating and still writing and whatnot, making up stuff as he goes. But there's these situations now where we have the perfect one I can think of right now is One Piece Pirate Warrior 4. In that game, it's already kind of decided how an arc is going to end throughout the game via an original story. So, because the actual story is not concluded in the manga and they're making an adaptation of it, it just goes to show you that they have to come up with their own original endings that aren't truly going to either happen, or maybe they're going to happen and they don't have the exact information of how it's going to get there, so it might be a little bit sloppier than the actual writing itself. But now if you do that with every show and anime and like anything that could come out, like TV, live actions, all those different stuff, um, they're all following usually a formula, unless it's created as a anime or it's created as just a live action and then it gets an anime later. Everything usually has something to follow, like a platform. They don't just usually wing it and go. Another one of these shows that did that and did not stay to its formula or stay to what's going on within its content was a show called Walking Dead, having different things transpire throughout the live action while the manga has a complete different outcome for multiple characters, not just one. So with that being said, that's what I kind of see with this in the case of any shows having endings or having people kind of steer the narrative into a whole instead of leaving gaps and openings for new stuff to sprout from the first season, which was a part 1 and 2, which kind of gave me more perspective on if they really wanted this show to go on further, they would have just called it seasons, but instead they went with season 1, part 1, So maybe they were just trying to clean it up, but somehow, some way, it definitely made the anime or like just the community of watchers of the anime, the sub and the dub, really confused. I can just see it on how people list different videos and different ways of the titles, which I'm still confused about as well, which is okay. But to each their own. I do really do hope this show doesn't come to an abrupt end. Like maybe there's still some types of fairy stuff to be handled. Because this week we see that fairies can even fuse together under the right circumstances. So not only did they show us Divine Beast and the fusion of fairies, they then kind of almost end the season or the series of the anime anyway, right here and then. So that's the weird part to me is how they kind of just were like, yes, that is a fusion of the fairies, but who cares? Like that's not important. That's never gonna happen again. Um, the last thing was seeing the death of her, really old childhood friend. I hate to say it, but this was like the only way I saw her kind of living well, right? Um, because she was dealing with the government, because she had already committed so many atrocities, like crimes and stuff. Like what would she really be capable of doing once the government found out about what she'd done, or got to find out just how much done in general, to then just be let off the hook wouldn't make too much sense in the general public's eye, including with them knowing of it, right? So that's what kind of felt like was being cleared this week was, hey, we have this character that, to be fair, she's awesome and she's become pretty like independent in the case of fighting and taking care of herself, but now that she's on the run and wants to be with someone who is completely on the opposite side of the fence, like not in trouble, not a fugitive, which by protecting her, she would be in a lot of trouble, right? So it's one of those things where if they did not kill this character, I feel like it would have had more potential. It would have gone maybe further because then she would have had to maybe left this company of, like these soldiers and straight up live on the lam with her best friend, and maybe Free would be trying to hunt her down, and be like, yo, you don't have to live this lifestyle because of her. And I'm not an anime writer, but I can make something out of this story, out of the end of this. But I'm pretty sure this is the final episode, so regardless of what happens next, I will keep my ears and eyes posted up. It just didn't feel like there was something really all that expanded on to be like, oh man, are you ready for this hype moment that could come in season 2? Like it didn't feel like anything was there really, so that was the only really disappointing part. The death of a girl that we were just getting to know definitely felt kind of rushed as well. Like her getting them both running at this beast the way that they did it for her to then kind of fall the way she did was lackluster for me, I'm not gonna lie. But I just hope that regardless, we either hear from you guys and hear what you either liked or disliked about Fairy Gone as a whole, or if you really did enjoy it and want more, let me know as well, because this story had a lot of good stuff in it, but at the same time, it felt like there was more. Once it started getting into the fairy aspect of it, it did lose a little bit of its um, grab to me, a little bit of its drive to me to keep with it. But regardless of that, I did start to find myself wanting to know the end, know the characters, know just more different stuff. And by that, I found myself really enjoying myself. I would definitely give this show like a 7 or an 8. Like, it's not bad, but it definitely will be slow for some, while others will love the character building, that world building. And then, if you understood more of the fairy stuff and actually kept along with it, you might enjoy it more than I did. So, with all that being said, I hope you guys are having an amazing day, night, evening, whatever the case is when you check this out. I will definitely be talking to you as soon as possible with new content that I can get out as soon as I can. So, with all that being said, I don't ask you guys to subscribe or drop likes, but comments are awesome just because I can see what you guys are feeling and stuff like that. But on the other side, I don't need to tell you guys to sub. I don't need to tell you guys to like, because if you do like it and if you do sub, I'll know, or I'll see the numbers go up and I will be that much more appreciated. But if you want more content from me, you'll be able to find me. So take care and peace. He just healed. Here we go. I'm dead. Oh nah, we ain't going out like that. Oof. Should've just let it rip. You will not outdo me. I blocked it after that grab. Yeah. Feel my double trigger.